All right, so check this out. Today we're in Gorman's Furniture, right? Or it used to be Gorman's Furniture. We're looking at the roof for the building owner. This is a huge strip mall. This is connected to many other large stores. So first we're gonna do an interior inspection. Notice they have a drop ceiling. We can't see the decking, so we're gonna have to look in a couple different spots to see what kind of decking they have. And then we can go up on the roof and address the overall concerns, write up a nice inspection report and see what's going on up there. One thing about this though, it's kind of weird, kind of creepy, right? You're in a department store that's completely vacant and empty.
So one thing cool about drop ceilings though is really give you a good idea of where there was potentially at some point a leak or currently a leak. I mean, I already know if they've already been up there that these leaks have already been addressed. They just never switched out the tiles, right?
Wow, that was pretty.
No,
that was pretty bad.
Those works.
All right, so for the camera, this is B-style metal decking. If the metal decking's rotted and you don't see it, you don't inspect the inside before you walk on it, I mean, worst case scenario, you fall through a flat roof, right? It's not like a homeowner's roof where you fall through, your foot goes through the ceiling and you have to repair some drywall. You fall through this thing, I mean, that jagged metal, rusty jagged metal is gonna scrape you from the inside out, and then who knows what you're gonna fall on, whether it's machinery, concrete floor, walls. I mean, it'd be really, it'd be catastrophic if something happened like that. So to know your surroundings before you go up on the roof is absolutely vital. You know, we try to assess the situation before we ever walk on any roofs. Just think, I mean, it's just a rubber membrane or a built-up membrane, has nothing under it or supported. I mean, I don't want to get caught up by that stuff. So that's just a word to keep it inside your mind. Especially when you're starting doing this stuff, you know, it's not a roof, it's not a shingle roof, right? It's not a pitch roof where there's an attic, there's trusses every 24 inches that catch you. There's nothing beneath it, except for whatever you're gonna fall on. And a bunch of rigid metal that's rusty. Cut your ass into pieces.
So I have a video from a job we did, we'll link it to this video, in which we had to do an emergency removal of an AC unit because I could go up to the curb that this is sitting on and I could bounce it because that deck, we talked about the decking below, the deck had rusted out around it because the owner neglected it. Well, there's some rust, not that big of a deal, I'm just gonna let it go for a little bit. I'm really concentrating on my business, right? Trying to make some money. But eventually, this is a very heavy unit and that is going to be a danger to people inside if you just neglect the roof around it because this has to remain structurally sound to hold this up. So at one point, something happened. You can see a patch there, right? But something happened here. I'm stepping on this insulation and it's bubbled. And the only reason that happens is because moisture has entered the insulation, saturated it, and dried out at some point and curled, just like plywood's gonna do. Plywood, when it gets wet, dries, it curls up. I don't know, I guess I don't really know why it does that, but it does that. So this is a telltale sign that there was a leak here at some point. You can see that a patch has been done around the area. So unless I see something else, a loose seam or another slit in the membrane that screams, hey, there's still an ongoing leak, I'm going to have to assume that this was taken care of already, right? They just didn't replace all the insulation because, well, it's costly. So this is a 60 mil mechanically fastened roof. It's actually, for an installer, it's like an installer's dream, right? There's no glue, except for maybe the walls. You can just lay it, screw every 12 inches with a specific plate, and you can buy this rubber with seam tape already on one side. So you don't have to do any, I mean, obviously you have to prime, but you don't have to worry about laying a separate piece of membrane, seam tape, you just go. Flip it over, done, roll it in. So you can see this fabric in here. So on a normal 60 mil, you won't see these lines in it. You can feel them, they're kind of like ridges, right? It's like a nylon that's built in between the plies. It means reinforced. It can flap up in the breeze a little bit, and you're gonna see that on a mechanically fastened roof. It flaps up in the breeze just a little bit, but I mean, it'll take a tornado through this place to rip it up.
And you can see the screws every 12 inches.
And actually, these screws have to be a little bit bigger of a diameter because it is gonna uplift, unlike a normal fully adhered, it's held down everywhere, right? It's glued down. You don't have to worry about these big, heavy screws, but between the seams, no glue. This is the only thing that they ask for code, right? On the ends, they want this middle area screwed down because it's the first place it's gonna get wind uplift. If it ever comes detached from that gravel stop or wind gets underneath the gravel stop, the first place it's gonna come up is right here. So this, they asked for this, but this is, besides that, just straight runs in the field, easy. And you can install this too in any weather. I mean, it can be 20 degrees when you can't use bonding adhesive. You're not supposed to use bonding adhesive when it's 20 degrees. It's possible to use bonding adhesive when it's 20 degrees, it's just gonna take you forever, right? This is a system you can lay in all temperatures. Obviously, first place to look is around all penetrations, and in this case, there's not a lot of pipes, but there are a lot of AC units. I mean, there's probably 15 in just this one area. It's unlikely to leak in the field unless there's an obvious cut. But all these details that go into flashing in these HVAC units properly, they're the first place to fail. You can already see that there was walkway pads here, right? These were supposed to be walkway pads that have flipped up and been lost over time. There's one just sitting over there in the middle field. This roof is 20 years old, so obviously the first place I want to look is at the details. In this case, it's not lifting up. Though you might see this seam here, it's watertight. I'd have to work at pulling that up. You'll see, I can bring you over on that side, and you're gonna see a couple where this edge is flapped up. It's a growing concern, though it's not gonna leak yet because of all this. I mean, it's adhered all the way through. That water would have to work its way all the way through to get to the seam. But yeah, this is the first place I looked, right here.
So when doing an inspection on a reinforced roof, right? Besides obvious cracks in the membrane, what else are we looking for?
Definitely loose seams. I always check all these seams, make sure that none of them have come apart yet. Again, 20-year-old roof, it's gonna shrink and expand a lot.
Right.
So the seams are the first place to come loose. And that's really easy to do. You just walk the seams, right? And it's gonna be obvious. And penetrations in corners, especially corners, because where they have to wrap these things, it's gonna wanna work its way out. It's just natural, right? Well, this is starting to lift up, so you might wanna get this. You can see that it's still gonna take a little bit for water to get through all this adhered product, right? Likely the seam is here in the dead center. But that's why they make these patches bigger than that. It's gonna have to work its way, looks like 3 inches to find the seam. But this is something I would document to the owner to say, hey, it's starting to, right? You're not gonna have a problem yet, but it's something you might wanna look into shortly or in the future, right? Something you could do quite easily. Silicone's an option. You could silicone around these. I've done that for building owners. Just, hey, it's preventative. The first place it's gonna go is around your penetrations. Do you want me to come silicone it? It's inexpensive to do, and they do it, right? It's just like a cheap insurance for them. Or obviously remove and reflash, right? There's a little bit more into that. The work is a little bit more complex to do that. Just something you want to put in the building owner's mind. Hey, you might need to do something about these in the future. And HVAC guys don't care. Their sole focus is here, right? So you'll find stuff up here. You'll find tools, you'll find screws laying around, right? Just from normal maintenance, an HVAC guy coming up here to change a filter or recharge this unit or do something, they have to remove these panels, and then they don't put them back. They just kind of leave the screw on the membrane. So be careful when you're walking around, because you don't want to be the root cause for pushing a screw through the membrane, and now you created a leak, right? I also love this. Just run a drywall screw through my membrane, no problem. For your Christmas lights.
Yeah, Major Dookie.
Oh yeah, that bird had Jalisco's yesterday.
Sure.
What I was thinking this might be is a barbed plate from the original installation, because when you do it mechanically fastened, the plate you use has barbs on it for these seams. And I was hoping that this wasn't a barbed one, because it would have made essentially holes in the membrane, right? It's not covered up with anything, but this is just a smooth plate for installation. It's not that big of a deal. There's nothing here. Little things like that. They want a roof inspection done before they move in and feel comfortable, or sign somebody up on a lease, right? Because they want to feel confident. I would tell them go ahead, besides a few minor things. Today we're on site with West Haven Builders. They're out of Port Huron. This project's in Rochester Hills. It's about 420 square shingle job. Has a little bit of standing seam metal, has a little bit of TPO, so this is a good project. Has a little bit of everything on it. Recently we've done a lot better with general contractors, meaning we're getting more attention from them, doing more work for them. It wasn't really a focus in the past, so it's kind of good to see them now. And yeah, we're just doing a job site visit today to see how they're looking for progress. What's up, Jason? Good, man.
It's a beautiful day out.
It's a beautiful day.
And then, this is 20 gauge trusses, so don't load it too heavy in certain, you know what I mean? Just make sure that when they load it.
2 square, then they do like a foot space. 2 square, then a foot space, so it's more even, right?
I mean, they should be done with the north end today.
Yeah.
The west end is good. Now they're gonna start going back to the south end.
Looks like your plumbers are staying right behind the carpenters.
Oh yeah. as soon as they can get it done, they're going up. They're putting other penetrations in. So, you know, they only work 4 days a week because they're up in Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
So come Monday, they'll start doing all their penetrations.
Okay.
You know.
I'm gonna go check out that west end. I want to roof it as much as I can for you because I don't want your guys getting wet all the time.
Well, that, you know, I know we got to protect this plywood.
Yeah, I mean, if we can just even get that run done,
That'd be great.
that'd be great.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I'll walk over there, take a couple,
Yeah,
take a
if you
peek.
have any questions, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, it's a big ass building. So essentially it's just like a figure eight, right? There's a center courtyard, watch your step and all this on this stuff. A little tiny roof line in the middle. I'll show you, you'll see it in the middle. But it's a nice low pitch, nothing to it really. Let's see if we can skate through here. They've got this inside done for the most part. It's pretty cool though being inside one of these. I guess I haven't seen all steel construction, you know, something I'm not used to. It's not like normal residential stuff, so it's very interesting to see. Steel trusses coming out. There's like a tail sticking out. Like, what is that? This has got to be something like I want to see the prints. We'll have to go to my truck and look at my computer. In a perfect world, new construction, 100 square a day, 300 bundles. That includes underlayment, you know, shingles, everything, 100 square a day. This one I'd probably put like 12, 15 guys on, and they'd all, I mean, it's wide open. They'd have plenty of space to work, every one of them. Beginning phases, when they were doing the walls and whatnot, I'd probably drive out here once a week. As it gets closer, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. I want to make a good impression for these builders because they always have something going on, right? You want to be Johnny on the spot and make sure that your schedule times out just right. So that's why I've been in constant communication with Jason, the project manager. Yeah, I've been in constant communication with him. We text back and forth. He actually had us do some shit at his house. It was cool, yeah. So you don't want to be known as that trade that held everybody else up, right? That's why I want to be there. I want to be ready to go. So I'm going to give him a fair assessment here and be like, hey, you're looking at more like the end of next week because I'm going to bust out 100 square a day in shingles. That means I'm only going to be here for 4 days if everything was done. He'll actually appreciate that over me just saying, yeah, just different rules to every owner, right? Building owners, homeowners, general contractors looking out for an owner, different set of rules. You got to know them all. And the only way to know them all, read your contracts and get experience. That's it. Get your feet wet, get dirty, mess it up once, learn from it. That's it. If you're ever gonna bid a job like this, anticipate 10% of your money being held until job completion. It's in every one of their contracts. If you can't float that, don't bid it. What I would suggest is that they don't continue sheeting until one side is fucking done. You know what I mean? Get that side done. That's my suggestion. Then I can roof it all and be done with that section. Yeah, because my guys will do literally 100 square in a day.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Reverses, ice and water, shield, synthetic, everything, 100 square in a day.
Okay.
I just don't want to have this shit sitting up there for a long time too.
Yeah.
Then you're having risk of, well, if the shingles get warm while they're on the stack, and then they could start sliding a little bit, you know?
Right. So if we could get all that bullshit done,
then we'd be looking at something to roof.
Yep. No, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, let me give me an hour or so.
Yeah,
I'll call
just call
you,
me.
and then we'll go from there.
Okay. All right, buddy.
Okay.
Thanks for your time,
Thank you.
man. You think you can pull one up instead of doing West Haven Tuesday? It's just not gonna be ready. That's why I'm glad I came out here today to look. Hey, I'm Tyler with Paramount Roofing. Today I'm at the Genesee County Park building and we are measuring for a 12 foot by 12 foot pyramid skylight and just kind of giving an overview of the job before we start. You just gotta use Vulcum.
So these are polycarbonate?
Polycarbonate, yeah. I want to get the exact curb and then I'll add accordingly. So this is like 12 foot, 3/4 of an inch. So I'd probably add an inch so I have a 1/2 inch each way, which is kind of what it looks like they did on the first time around. As you know, you only get one shot at skylights.
Right.
If you buy it, you own it. If you ever do a curb mount skylight, double, triple check your measurements outside of curb to outside of curb. Check with the manufacturer, see what kind of, I mean, you might measure 12 foot exactly, but what they really want to make it at is 12 foot and a 1/2 inch or 12 foot plus 1 inch, you know, a 1/2 inch each way. Check with the manufacturer, make sure that you're ordering at the right size based on the curb dimension. We're gonna take this off, this entire thing, roof it, put a temporary roof over it with membrane until this new one shows up. But I wanna make sure that the dimensions are right, because again, it's a $20,000 unit. When you buy it, you own it. This is my second time out here. If I didn't bother to measure this, a second time. The unit alone is just north of $20,000 and 12 to 15 weeks to get the thing in. So essentially I'd be at 30 weeks if I had to do it again, plus another $20,000. So the difference between dealing with like a municipality instead of a private owner, obviously the money thing. Like for instance, this building for the municipality, the money that's paying for this roof is funded by taxpayer dollars. Though they have to be cognizant, though it has to fit in their budget, they're more willing to spend the money if it's budget friendly and it fits within their annual budget. An owner, especially an owner-operator, it's their personal money, right? So that's the difference, is that they're much more personally invested into this building, right? Like if I were to do somebody who owns a liquor store or somebody who owns a CNC shop, it's their dollars that I'm playing with, right? Though they have the budget that they have to match, though they have everybody's best interests at heart, it's not coming out of their pocket, right? They're much more detail oriented, they're much more invested into what you're proposing to them. Because at the end of the day, it's really money out of their pocket, right? The other guy bidding the job, he was telling me about, essentially how he was going to remove some of these panels and fit a whole bunch of tapered insulation. But this is seam tight, which means that this is crimp with a crimping tool. Okay. So how did he plan on getting this apart? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then putting it back together. So that was interesting. Because a lot of these areas, like right there, right here, a lot of commercial roofs, you come into these situations and obviously you want to add a bunch of insulation, make it stop thermal transfer. How are you supposed to fit either 3.5 inches or 5.2 inches of polyiso in a spot that's already built like this without making a huge structural change? Because this is just glued to plywood, right? Nothing protecting the membrane. Their big problem is that the plywood end's lifted and punctured a bunch of holes. That's why you see all these patches, right? So what I'm gonna do is take out all the plywood, and just in case it does move anymore, we're gonna put 1/2-inch structo deck, which is made by Firestone to kind of protect the membrane between the membrane and the plywood. Obviously replace all the drains, but I mean 1/2 inches, you're coming up to stuff like this. It works out, they were happy with it, so we're gonna do the project.